Hello everybody and welcome back. My name is Jordan, also known as JMonster, and today we're going to be playing some Silmarillion Total War. We're going to be playing on a Halloween map made by one of our community members, and it should be a good time. One of the factions you are going to see us play against, ooh, that's a little bit loud, is a neutral faction that is staffed entirely by undead. And that's not something that's going to continue over into the live build. This is just exclusively for our testers to have a little bit of fun with the holiday season and so forth. So there's a lot of damn trees on this map. It's looking like, yeah, it's the right map. It's just a lot of trees. Which is kind of surprising. I wonder if he gave us the wrong map. But we'll be playing some Halloween themed games today. Just not on this tree infested nightmare. But we have been working really hard on the asset pack as well, and that's something that you should see. I'm hoping to have it ready for you by the end of the weekend, so the next day or so. And I'm going to choose this time. And I think we're going to play on Gondolin's Den, which is one of the currently in progress, or work in progress Halloween maps. So we're going to do... Right, we need to set custom weather. So to do that, go down here to one of the siege maps. We're going to do light fog. We're going to do sunset. And then we gotta go and choose the map we want, which is Gondolin's Den. Okay, so we have 3 other people coming. We're going to be playing on the Gondolin's Den, which is a new map that was made with our Halloween asset pack, which is currently available to our testers, but will hopefully be available to you guys within the next couple of days. We're going to do a quick 2v2, try it out, see how it goes. Yeah. And if I'm incorrect, if I'm not incorrect rather, I think the map creators going to be playing as the neutrals, which are currently staffed by a whole bunch of undead, which we're using for Halloween-themed scenarios and so forth, and you're going to be seeing one of them in the next day or so, because we just finished it today, and it's actually really, really fun. It's got a bit of a weird ending, because we had some like disconnects like right at the very, very, very end, but I do have all the screens and stuff in order to make that work. So you got the Risen Witchers, Shamblers, which are kind of the older Bear White model, Risen Horde, and some Risen Juggernauts. So you'll see those on the field today, I expect. As for us, we're going to be playing as Angband. Angband has undergone some pretty significant changes in this particular patch. One of the big ones has been to the morale response for their mid-tier Ironshod units, which applies to everybody but the Ironshod Reavers. They're going to be getting a new model based on the Black Legion of Barad-dûr. Garen Coma from the Reforged team has graciously allowed us to use that model. So I'll be tweaking it a little bit, making it a little bit more first stage friendly, and the Ironshod Reavers will henceforth be more of a medium infantry unit. Whereas the heavy infantry have had their morale response to shocks and so forth, death of a general, lots of casualties, etc., decreased. So it's now more likely for them to run away. And we're sort of testing the consequences of that particular change. So we're going to do an interesting army today. I want trolls, I want spear guard, I want these. I'll take 2 wretches as well. Yeah, it'd be a nice army. The reason I'm bringing the Balrogs in particular is that I want to test the effects of their morale buffing ability. So they get about plus 10 in 25 meters. You see that indicated on the unit card there. I want to see if that does help somewhat make up for the lower morale shock response of the Iron Shot units. That way, you can bring a mid-tier army, which is currently very strong, or rather was prior to this, but there's the risk, of course, of things starting to run away when you don't have enough support units. So there's like a risk-reward choice to be made there, whereas previously it was just bring lots of mid-tier orcs because you can just overwhelm people with numbers. And you can do that reliably without a lot of consequences. I'm sure you can see how that would be a bit of a problem for build diversity and give you less reason to bring some of the bigger monsters. And that's what I want Angband to be all about. Be about those monsters, but I don't want to kill the mid-tier build either. It's good to have that diversity. Let's see here. We're just waiting on Tundra. Yeah, he's just getting the map, so he'll be here in just a few minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and link the stream in the usual places. Oops, that's not correct. But yeah, pretty decent little army there. The Guardians of the Iron Crown will be changing a little bit as well. That's currently hasn't gone through, but Karen Koma has also offered us to use the Minas Morgul Chosen model, so I'll be altering that a little bit, making it a little bit more congruent with the Iron Crown aesthetic. And they're going to have their armor increased by 1, but they'll be losing 2 shield values. So they'll go from 8 to 6 shield, but their armor will go from 10 to 11, which is actually pretty significant. Armor is a really, really nice stat. So it is actually a fair trade, even at a 2-to-1 exchange. And all of that is being done just to sort of tool Angband towards still being one of the most well-armored factions in the game, and certainly the most well-armored of the 2 Orcish factions. But I would like them to maintain that identity, but also not be so overwhelmingly tanky. So certain units, like the Reavers, changes I mentioned earlier, them becoming a medium infantry unit rather than a heavy infantry unit with an armor upgrade, and the loss of the armor upgrade from the Guardians of the Iron Crown, all kind of play into that. That being said, Trolls actually have an armor upgrade now. Alas, I can't really use it, because it's a little bit more expensive in this patch. But you are able to upgrade the armor on the Trolls, make them a little bit more tanky, bring them up from 10 to 12, which is actually a fairly substantial jump. Anything that's not armor piercing is going to have some difficulty hacking its way through 12 armor. There we go. We have tons in the game. Go ahead and ready up. Let's check chat. Let's see how chat is doing today. Awful quiet. How are you guys? Are you enjoying the holiday season? Are you excited for the asset pack that we'll be releasing? You're going to see some of the things that you can expect in it, previewed in this particular battle. We're shy today. That is fine. So we're just waiting on Tundra. He's going to be my ally. I think we are going against Stuart of Dale's army. I think he was the first one in here, and he's going to be playing as Tolan Gaudhoth, which is actually a pretty serious challenge for us. We can beat them handily in an infantry fight. Like, that's not even a question. But the Tolan Gaudhoth meta has largely been informed by a build that I showed off to you not too long ago. It's the double Mangonel, triple Trapper, and Longfang build. And that can certainly be a big problem for our front line, and especially now that our orcs have that decreased response to morale shocks. That can be really, really, really scary. Tolan Gaudhoth, I think, is starting to come into their own as like a very competitive faction, which I'm actually really, really happy about. And I've got a few different builds that you can play around with, although I am seeing a ton of Mangonels from Tolan Gaudhoth. So our immediate threat is actually going to be Fingolfin, and I would love to pick a straight fight with them. So we're going to shield our back from the Wolves of Tolan Gaudhoth. using this this cliff here, and that's going to allow us to advance relatively safely against their front line, where we can do quite well for ourselves. We're also going to put our mangonel up here. So we're not going to need to do all the elaborate spacing and stuff that we played with in previous streams when we were playing as Angband. We're not going to have to worry too much about artillery fire, cavalry from our back, because these guys are actually separated here. Ooh, it's kind of jumping all over the place. And yeah, take a look at this. These are some of the spider webs and things that we've added into our asset pack, so you'll be able to add a little bit of detail to your maps just by placing these kind of next to buildings or like just slightly in front of buildings. And this map is supposed to represent Goliath's lair, as you might imagine, given that it is named that. So there's our center line, which is up over here. We're going to have our Valor Raukar, I think, will be up here, and they're going to support that advance with that 10 morale buff. I will put... We're going to kind of put our Bulldogs in danger a little bit, because why not? But I'm going to put them here with our Macemen. And we're going to have an ally who's going to be able to shield us a little bit. But once we move up here, I do expect that Tolan Godhath will send some friends to help out their ally. So we're going to station some of our spearmen over here. There we are. We're going to put them just slightly forward if we can. The map doesn't seem to like it too much. Maybe if they're smaller we can do it. Nope. That's okay then. And we're going to put Spear Guard behind them in case someone tries to go after our Spear Guard, lock them down. It's pretty common. We're going to want our Spear Guard to kind of shield our back lines if we can. And then the wretches are out in front there to throw in the place of the Spear Guard so that I can keep them mobile and keep them active. It's a good idea. Put these guys over here. Put them out in front. I'm going to have some flanking troops here. And this is where I'm going to concentrate a lot of force. I'll put also one of my Reavers over here. Maybe that's too much. Maybe we'll use the Reavers as a reserve. As I mentioned, the Reavers don't have the same response to morale shocks that the frontline troops do. Theirs is actually better. So they do function now, and there's a good reason to bring the Reavers, I think, in addition to the regular Iron Shroud Line infantry, because they act as like a mobile and more solid reserve in the event that your front line begins to crumble. So that's a good thing to have in your corner. And you guys can be group 3. We got those wretches there to block, and in tandem with the Troll Guard of Gothmog, is actually a very potent cavalry force, probably even better than what we have over here. So that should be good. Mac and cheese. Would you want a spreadsheet for all units? I mean, if you wanted to do that, sure, it might be helpful for me to be able to kind of look at things at a glance. Spooky map is spooky. Shame I gotta go to work. Yeah, you missed some really good games today, Wally. Some somewhat frustrating games, as I'm sure you've known by looking at tester chat, because we did have some crashing and things like that. But we ultimately ended up getting a really nice undead scenario in, and I'm excited for that. Maybe I should put you over here. Let's do that. You can shoot at them. And Gondolin is going to be largely localized inside of there, so I can start to move into there. And then this will all be like nice and blocked off for me. So what I'm going to do, take these guys as a reserve, we'll put them in there, and I'm going to take these troops and we're going to actually go all the way around here. Let's see what Kummel does as a response. It's got a lot of archers out front, but I'm not super concerned about them, except for the fact that, oh dear, looks like he's going to advance on me, so that's something that we can definitely use to our advantage with the mangonel here, and you're going to see exactly why, because that fire is deadly once it touches the ground for a few seconds, and then people will just walk right into it. So it's a really nice tool, and I think it's actually a welcome thing for artillery generally, because there is a little bit of, I guess, skill and decision making to an extent that goes into it. Like, you're targeting like back units and you're able to use mobility against people, and people are also able to use their brain basically and like try and take out your artillery before they advance or spread out so that it doesn't matter as much. There's like a nice cat and mouse game that goes on there, and I am quite satisfied with that. We need to get these guys moving because they're gonna be in trouble soon. So one thing to also note about this, and speaking of taking out artillery, fire arrows are now actually quite good against artillery. So if you can fire arrows into the front of artillery engines, you will be able to destroy them. Not immediately. It will probably take 3 to 4 volleys, sometimes 5, depending on accuracy, etc. But it is an option that you have available to you. Hit these herds in here. We'll do that. I think that that's probably a good target there. Valoralcar, I'll try to keep you back for now. I don't want any javelins or anything to get tossed into you. I am also looking at some ways to make elephants more survivable in like a meaningful like gameplay sort of way. So one of the things I'm looking at is reducing projectile speed so that projectile dodging becomes a thing. So if someone focus fires your elephants with, say, 2 units of armor-piercing javelins, you have the option to kind of bob and weave a little bit and mitigate or completely eliminate that incoming damage. But that's like a skill-based thing. That's like choices that you get to make that have real important, satisfying gameplay consequences. Ooh, that was beautiful. I'm expecting Tolan Gaudhoth to kind of come at me. It's possible that they will. There we go. Nice little fireball there. You guys need to get back here. Yeah, maybe necessary to run them over here. And we're just going to continue to soak up this arrow fire. That's totally fine for us. We have enough armor as Angband to basically eat that all day, every day. You guys should move forward, though. You're a little bit exposed. You're starting to take some pretty heavy casualties there. And the longer that we make them wait, the longer our mangonel has to do some damage. But currently, its spacing is not great, which is why we're not getting that big satisfying bloom with every shot. So we're going to take our mangonel and move it back just a wee bit. We have cooked a decent amount of these Fingolfin units, but we're just going to continue to fall back there. And the longer that this goes on, the more time we also have to get into position with our flanking troops there, our general, and so forth. And we've got the numbers here, I think, to really make life problematic for the House of Fingolfin, although we do have some cavalry up here, so that's something to be aware of. I definitely want to draw my Balrogs back in that case, because I don't want them getting sniped out. They're a big part of our morale support capabilities here. We don't want to lose them, so we're just going to drop them out of that formation. We're going to take these guys. No, I don't think we can move forward there just yet. So you move back a little bit. Let's see about hitting these guys. His spacing in his formation is just a little bit kind of out of it here, so let's take them over this way. I can see those Laugskaras beginning to move around, and I don't like it. I want these guys over here too. So we have that sort of double screen. We might get some support from our ally Osiriand here as well. This is a fight I think Osiriand is well equipped to win, because there's not a lot of like range capability on Tolan Gaudhoth. Although there is a big old rush coming up this way, but this particular area they seem to be doing alright. Ooh, Ithrin and Tolgalen Getting chomped on by Gijek Skaraz. Those are just heavy melee cavalry though, so that shouldn't be too much of a problem for them. What are these guys doing? They're still fresh. Everyone here is still relatively fresh. We're just now running out. Ooh, very nice. I think that that could be a good time to start to move forward, so let's do that. Take a phalanx and we're going to move it up here. Oh, we won't even have to. Our enemy is going to come to us now. I think he's had enough of getting blasted with our artillery piece. What we need to do is find a good engagement for our Balrogs. And it's looking like this flank, despite the presence of those two-handed units, it's like not a bad place for them to be, basically. Well, you guys need to run, though. You're going to get caught out of position, which would be bad. Let those guys kind of take that. We're just going to go for that frontal assault here. And we're going to come in with the Mangonel. Might as well use it on some of these stationary Lauskas, or even better, the Arqueni Vindicano. I'm going to move in with some numbers over here, which will make good shields for the Balrog. Unit Group 3 needs you to round this bend and come from the rear. Time is now of the essence. Harumatar over there, which is obviously not a good thing. Yeah, we need the Balrog to be present. So where is he? I'm going to try and set him up for success. You guys won't be able to do too much for right now. So we're going to hold these guys in reserve here. We don't want them right on the front lines immediately because there's not... Well, actually there might be room for them to attack in there, so let's actually throw them in. Try and chew these guys out. Got that nice and locked down, so I think maybe the presence of Spear Guard over here would be much needed because I don't want my center line to run away. I really need to kind of hurry it up here with these guys a bit. See this Harumatar coming from my Balrogs. I'm going to charge them down with those Iron Shot Reavers, try and body block for them. Might be a mistake to have our Balrogs there, but I think they seem to be doing alright. That's a nice big kind of block for them to really sink their teeth into and get a lot of value out of that AoE attack that they have. Our front line is really getting chewed up quite badly here. But they are also taking losses, and they are starting sort of at something of a disadvantage, since we did manage to do a decent amount of work as they began to approach us, but we need to hurry here. Because we are kind of playing with like both hands tied behind our backs in a sense. Yeah, we really need to get the Goon Squad over here as quickly as possible. Don't need, I think, to be there. We got Sons of Hurin. We're going to get them out of there if we can. Pull our Balrogs back this way and redeploy them. Yeah, I'm going to get one out of there. Other one should be able to. This guy might die, though. The one in the back there. That's obviously not good. But we should be able to pull him through there, use that superior mass. shift these guys over just a little bit. We are kind of losing in the center. Yeah, this is where I need that Balrog to be. Not anywhere near those Sons of Húrin if we can help it. Come on, boyos. They're moving extremely slowly. Although I suppose they're moving at normal speed, and it just seems like they're moving slowly because I'm on a time crunch. What the hell? What the hell is wrong with you guys? Get over here. Yeah, see? This is where I want those Balrogs to be. I really want them in here mixing it up with these troops and getting lots of value from those attacks of theirs. Yeah, they're going to smash their way through that real nicely. We just need these guys to keep holding. We are starting to thin them out in a lot of places, which is good news for us. We just have to keep our back line secure. Might be hard, though. I can see now Tolan Gaudahoth is kind of coming down from the hills. And I see those Scarhide trappers, so what we might need to do here... Let's move over there with our artillery crew. It's always nice to have them. Oh, bulldogs. The Arqueni Findicano are not great in close quarters with infantry. They're not melee cav, they're not lancers, they're not anything like that, so... We're going to concentrate our force over here, because that's where we seem to be winning the most. Take our trolls over here as well. I see those Sons of Húrin, but I think if we can surround them, then we're going to do just fine. Yeah, those Arqueni Findicano are going to need to get out of there. They don't want none of that. Oh, the Balrog's starting to die off a little bit. But they're exactly where they need to be, doing what they need to do. Just need to hurry here. Sperm will be able, because they were idle and braced, they will be able to turn some of that charge damage back on the Arqueni. So it's not going to be an easy fight for them, at least. He's starting to lose a little bit in the center now. I think we're starting to lose some of our Balrogs. Herdsmen should get smashed apart by bulldogs and troll guard. We're going to move our macemen over here, and that'll be important. These wretches are mostly there to kind of like body block and to absorb a charge. Just need to be able to get my my other macemen into place quick enough for that to make a difference. I think our Balrogs have done what they can, so we're going to pull him out of there. I'm just going to leave him on the back lines. Oh, unless he died. No, he died. Shit. Well, there goes some of our morale support. Take my bulldogs over here too. These guys should die off pretty quick. These wretches will probably reform. There's 122 of them there. It's enough. These guys attack them on the wings. And now help is needed over here.
Half the enemy force remains.
No, I don't want you guys to do that. I want you to charge in. I do want my troll guard to pull out of that. Maybe this ends up being a mistake. We'll see. Because it is going to leave a few of these herdsmen, but there's only 14 of them. And there'll be less once all my Troll Guard disengage. Oh, this is bad news bears right here. Let's take those Reavers and pull them back if we can. Marines of Vinyamar now hitting us. We might be able to rout these trappers off though if we're lucky.
Only half the enemy force remains.
Yeah, and back come the wretches, which is good. Yeah, and then we have Cav in our back lines, which is bad. I don't know what's happening with our ally, but I think he's being heavily defeated by Toll. So like we would win our fight, but I don't think we're gonna be able to do it with people pushing on our back line there. What we got here? We got Marines of Vinyamar. Yeah, we're doing our thing here, which is all we can really be expected to do. But Cav in our back. Yeah, treacherous Steward of Dale, not respecting the 1v1. That's okay. It's a team game. This is what you're supposed to do. But this is going to cause a massacre out here. Unfortunately, Tundra's just wasn't able to get things done against Toll. And he's getting crushed, and now we are subsequently going to eat dirt too. It's a shame, because I think we would probably come out on top in this. We'll like kill off the Sons of Húrin and all those other nasty things here. But we can't be expected to do all of this by ourselves. No, they're gonna kill us here. Let's get over here. It's a shame. If our ally was like maybe able to keep Toll out for a little bit longer, we might have been able to kind of cinch the victory. But that's just how it's gonna be today, I suppose. Camel didn't have the ability to exploit my flanks. He bottled himself up with terrain. That's just not true. And we were defeating his center, and we were defeating these guys. Like, I don't know what you're talking about there, Artorias. Like, look at what he's got left. And look at the numbers I had left before I was getting attacked by Marines of Vinyamar, and we're still doing well. Like, they're about to break. That's just incorrect. I had the whole thing locked down with Spearman and everything else. He had nowhere else to go. You're very much incorrect on that. Those bulldogs are actually doing really well. Like, even with the additional reinforcements, like, we would have killed those guys off. Maybe the mistake we made was trying to go wide around there because it took too long and we weren't able to, like, apply force in the places that we would have needed to. But there's not a whole lot left of this Fingolfin army, and I think we would have definitely destroyed them if we didn't have our front line basically destroyed by a couple of rogue cavalry units from Toll.
Our men have fought long and are becoming tired.
But when he bottled himself up like this, I couldn't resist to try and, like, go around. But this wall is quite long, so it took us longer than I expected to. So maybe in hindsight, we could have, like, cinched a more quick and convincing victory over Fingolfin if we'd have kept everything together. But who knows? We got a lot of value off of that mangonel early on. I thought we would be okay to hold it for a little bit longer, and I thought our ally was gonna be able to hold up for longer than he did, but unfortunately, I mean, it's not like a runaway victory, but yeah, they definitely lost heavily enough that Toll was comfortable enough to send some stuff over behind us, which was an issue. My tiny little group here. The last stand force, the Guardians, yeah, even with the presence of the Bulldogs and with me just blowing that horn, they're probably not going to stand and fight for too much longer. But still, it's a good game. Yeah, Kamal made this map. That's correct, Wally Wolf. If we get one more rally off, might be able to stop these guys from breaking just a little bit longer. Don't think it's gonna matter. They're gonna start to break soon. Yeah, there they go. Yeah, even with that, these guys probably won't stand and fight for too much longer. It's pretty cool though. I do quite enjoy all of these, all the spider webs and that black terrain. I don't even mind that one team gets this sort of like hilltop to sit on, since the changes that we made to artillery have actually made driving people off of hills a little bit easier. So like hill camping isn't just something you can get away with because you're unstoppable when you're on top of a hill. Now there are consequences to it, especially if people are prepared. I mean, you're incorrect, Alex. I had him basically where I wanted him. I had my stuff, like my really damaging troops bearing down on his back line. I was already starting to smash his wings. I was beating him in the center very, very heavily. And then Toll and Gauderhoth cavalry showed up, and I didn't really have anything to stop them. And I had to deal with elements of their army throughout that battle. So if it came down to a 1v1 grind, I was already ahead by the time that he even engaged us in close quarters. So no, you're incorrect. big old pile of dead troops there. It's kind of hard to tell who's who, but I think there's a lot of dead elves in there. That double Guardian plus Bulldog combination was pretty good. We swept some of his important elites from the field, like there's no Sons of Húrin left. Most of the things that are in here, like Marines of Vinyamar, which we took a huge bite out of, down to 34, and like frontline troops that were freed up because of that Tolen Gaudhoth cavalry. So we did pretty well, all things considered. Yeah, look at that. Guardians of the Iron Crown getting an impressive 167 and 143 kills. Bulldogs did well. Valor Alcar did well. The Reavers did sort of okay. One of them did really well with 128 kills. Halberdiers doing alright. One of them got 180. That's not bad. Legionnaires kind of got pooped on for the most part, but two of them got nearly 100 kills, which is quite impressive. Magadel, nearly 200 kills off of the Magadel. The wretches were just there to die. And, you know, they did their thing. Troll Guard getting 127. So, yeah, the numbers are there. I think we would have been able to get that done, but Stu came in, helped his ally, saw he was in trouble. It's a good move. And ultimately, Tundras wasn't able to withstand him. I think Tundras was mentioning that he had like some terrain difficulties that made that quite hard. Map definitely does favor one side over the other. But, I mean, like I said, the big hill up there, there are options, just not as much as Assyrian. Like if you had a catapult or two, and Toll was sitting up there, you could just bombard them. Or if they wanted to come through that big gap, you'd be able to kind of take your pick, really, of targets and get a lot of value out of that. So there is counterplay to it, so I quite enjoy it. We just weren't really equipped for it, I guess, with the particular composition that we had. Well, that my ally had. Let's try another one. We have some other Halloween-themed maps that could be fun. Or we can just host sort of a regular game. That's fine too. Halidon Village is not exactly suited for field battles. That's more of like a 3v3 or 4v4 if you really want to get nasty. We could do the Nuin here Ruins, but I don't know if I want to show you guys that map yet. That's the Dota map. It's like completely finished now. And it's ready for testing, but I want to show you that on a more proper occasion. So why don't we play... maybe a river crossing isn't a good one to do. We could play on... those are all cityscapes. Hills of Hithlum we've done. Húrin's Homestead we've done. Telethdurin we've played to death. I don't really want to do the War-Torn Plains. What about... Arvernian. Arvernian could be fun. Let's try that. I'm good, Calvin. How are you, man? Yeah, that's a good point, Alex. Tundra could have moved to us, and we could have, like, bottled up. Just sort of, like, dug in that little pass there, which limits the mobility of Tolen Gaudhoth. That was also a possibility. And then we could just pick on his ally Fingolfin and 2v1 him, and then that would have been an easy win there. Or it would have been, you know, a much tougher fight, at least for the other team. Let's see if we can pull a few other people in. Maybe we can do a game with the zombies. That might be fun. Oh, Eclipse is going to come play with us. That's always fun. Arvernian's not a terrible 1v1 map, so we can always do a 1v1 too. We don't often do those. So it might be fun. If we're going to do a 1v1, I think I'd play with a faction that I'm not super familiar with, that has gotten some changes in the patch. Just so we can show them off and sort of get a sense for how well those things are. Oh, he's going to play as the undead, is he? Interesting. Undead versus Falas? No, oh man, if he brings a bunch of Witchers, then we'd be in a lot of trouble. They're different from how they are in Reforged. They don't have the AP and a lower missile damage, but still against the lightly armored Phalothrim, that would be big bad. Big bad indeed. We'll do tanky Juggernauts. Oh, Steward of Dale's going to come join us too. Did I not just give you money? Oh. I see. Oh, jeez. Well, the Yoda guy's gonna join us. Perfect. Got some extra people. See if we can get a 3v3 going. That might be fun. Oh, so we're going to be playing against Tolan Gauderhoth, are we? Maybe we'll try Angband again. It could be fun. And we'll alter our build here a little bit so that we're more Tolan Gauderhoth centric, I guess. Yeah, that's a good core to build the army around. Is he not gonna come up and do a 2v2? Oh, okay. There we go. Well, if we're gonna fight the endless undead hordes, why don't I play as Doriath? They're pretty good at dealing with chaff. We can bring lots of the Axe Guard. It's good for fighting their zombies. I think the Sword Host will be helpful for just kind of holding the line. X-Men of the Girdle trade pretty nicely with a lot of their units. We're gonna bring a couple of catapults because we're a badass. Tyrion Lystanen will be our sort of discount general for the day. From there, I think we're going to need some more heavy hitting stuff. There's no way that we can break them because all the undead units are locked. It's going to be all about just dealing with their chaff, essentially. So numbers, I think, will be important. So we'll take some Spear Host. They can potentially be quite valuable in this situation. Extra unit of them, perhaps. A couple units of Wardens. That might not be too bad. Kind of a meme build, but we'll see if we can make it work or not. It's a lot of mid-range projectiles. And try to thin out those numbers as best as we're able to. Although, yeah, we're gonna save the Wardens exclusively for sniping out the Witchers, so we're gonna keep them in reserve. And that is what their job will be. Am I going to showcase my new map again today? I don't think I'm going to showcase it today, Calvin. I do have a scenario that one of the other lead developers is making for it, and I think that that's more appropriate. I spent a lot of time on that map. It's probably about 30 to 35 hours, plus the time that it took to convert all the assets and whatever. So I want to do a big grand reveal. I think that it warrants that for sure. Hey, JmonsterTW just dropped in. Did you miss too much? I didn't miss too much. We played on one of the Halloween-themed maps. It was the Ungoliant's Lair map, and we had a loss on there, which was unfortunate. But we're going to try again, and we're going to play against the undead units this time around, because we do have a holiday build that's available for our testers. This isn't something that's public, unfortunately, just because I don't want to make everyone download a million updates. It just becomes a logistical nightmare for you guys. And we're also working on a whole bunch of Halloween scenarios. The first one we finished today, and I will be posting that probably in the next day or so, and it's like an undead zombie apocalypse thing on a custom map that shows off a lot of the new Halloween assets that you guys can expect probably by the end of the weekend. It's not going to include every single one of the things that I posted, because I wanted to put 90 extra objects in there, and then that expanded to like 95. But there will be around 70 or so assets that are going to be posted on our ModDB, and you guys will be able to play with those and make your own Halloween maps. But yeah, so you're going to see lots and lots of Halloween-themed content come from Silmarillion in the next little while. We send them to different YouTubers. UMAD, I think, will have one. Hopefully Pixelated Apollo will pick it up as well. But for the asset pack, I don't think we'll have time to do all 90 of them, but we got all the big important stuff. And that's because I want to get it out to you before the end of October, and I want you to be able to make Halloween maps while the season is still around, right? So hopefully by the end of Sunday my time, Pacific Standard, that you'll see that available to you. He'll be back. Let's see if we missed anything else here. But yeah, it shouldn't be too much longer. I think Yoda's going to come back, and then we're going to play on the Arverdian map, and apparently we're going to be fighting against the undead hordes, which is going to be a lot of fun. You're going to recognize a lot of the units. It's the Oathbreakers, the Dead of the Marshes, Barrel Whites, and Witchers, and all that cool stuff. That's currently available in our test build, and they've been kind of tweaked to be compatible with some Silmarillion meta, so they're actually like usable, and they don't have like 10 HP and like armor piercing and all that crazy stuff. So this will be an interesting match. And actually, our composition here, if you want to take a look at it, for those of you just joining us, it's largely tooled towards trying to thin out their numbers. So I got my throwing axes here, I got my my jabbies, then I've got some missiles here to deal with the Witchers. Tyrion Lysdonin will be useful for that as well. And then we have our chaff grinding specialist, the Axe Guard and the Sword Host and things like that. Should be a fun one. One of the things to note is that they have no skirmish capacity outside of the Witchers. So they're just gonna basically walk at us in a big slow wall, and we're gonna have plenty of time to use up all of our catapult ammunition and to choose our targets wisely. So there won't be a lot of rush, essentially. We're gonna have all the time that we need to like set up good engagements. Probably should have changed the weather. Oh well. It's the undead horde marching towards us underneath the light of day. They've grown bold, and their numbers have grown. There we go.
Units, await my orders.
Okay, so we're going to set up here, give ourselves a little bit of high ground. The range of the catapults is actually quite significant. So we're going to turn on the fiery, because there's going to be so many targets that it's going to be quite hard to miss, I think. I'm going to set up our front line here as thin-ish line of spears. We're going to offset that a little bit from our front line. And then in behind them, we want to spread out mightily with our light infantry because the Witchers are super, super scary. Against light troops, they've got actually very high missile damage. And they can be a big problem. Again, this isn't something we're going to carry over into the live version. I want to make that abundantly clear to everybody. This is just something that we're doing for fun. I activated these so we could have like fun Halloween scenarios for you guys to enjoy. But this won't be something that we carry over to live. It's just for kicks, basically. And the chaff specialists will be here in the back. Spread them out a little bit. Reserve units will be posted here and here. So we'll put them a little bit closer to that front line. Can go in the center. I think that probably makes the most sense. And then I've got another sword host unit here that I can just kind of have floating around and throw them in where I need them. This will be interesting. We don't really have a lot of numbers because we spent quite a lot of money on our catapults, so let's hopefully try to get as much value out of them as possible. And it shouldn't be too hard with all the undead in the field. Things to note about them is that they can't break, and they're very slow. Like a wall of Oathbreakers there, and they all a lot of the other ones like hide anywhere, so once they start to move they'll be relatively easy prey. Yeah, you can see some of them here, some of the Dead of the Marshes, and Oathbreakers are there. You got the old Barrow White model, and they're just going to shamble slowly towards our front lines. So what we're going to do here, open fire, because we can't hesitate for too long. You can just see the vastness of this army arrayed against us. Our poor little group. I have no idea how this is going to work out. This is not at all a balanced sort of scenario, but it's still fun. As well, just a quick note here, because there's a lot of latency in the game, and it kind of reminded me. I have been experiencing some like crashing and stuff with my computer, like blue screening, so that's why I haven't really been doing a lot of streaming and posting content. So if the stream suddenly ends, well, you know what happened, don't you? Take a bite out of them here. Let them all shamble forward ever so slowly. This seems like a good area to concentrate on. Ooh. Yeah, you can see the accuracy of artillery has improved quite mightily here. It is actually a useful tool now. Target these dead, like these more shambling dead here in the back, so that artillery will, when it falls short, it will fall short into these units. It's an important thing to note when you're using artillery, when the patch is eventually released, is that you don't want to target lead units, you want to target stuff in behind them. Nice. Beautiful. And you get way more value off of your units that way. There's so many, I know. We're so screwed. One thing to note here is that when I brought these catapults, the crews are actually Axe Guard of Region detachments. So by having two of them, I basically have a fourth unit of Axe Guard, which is a nice thing to have. There's like literally nothing bad about having lots and lots of Axe Guard when you're playing as Dordiath. I guess I'll hopefully thin them out. This is going to get real laggy. So prepare yourself, basically. I've got my ally over here, so maybe this is where we're going to deploy some of our reserve units. Now, these Risen Horde are not very good. There's not really too many of them. Or, I mean, there's lots of them, but they're not very good.
Seems almost certain.
I need to get those Witchers. Shit. Where are my bowmen? Yeah, that's why they're here. Steward, you rotten bastard. Well, they're trying to escape, but we're gonna focus all of our missile fire on them. Now these guys are out of ammo, so we're gonna array them behind our second line. And once these axemen run out of ammunition, you can sometimes, when they're engaged like this, if you kind of attack diagonally, your troops are a little bit more likely to throw, so that's always nice. Yeah, we are kind of beating back the horde here. We are going to need to redeploy some reserves over this direction because I can see a flanking movement coming in. There's a big one over here as well. We're going to move our reserve units over that direction. Yeah, those Witchers need to... Oh, no! Yeah, see, they're very powerful. But they can only play that trick once. Luckily. There we go. I'm starting to kill them off now. Now the Witchers have used their ammo, so I'm free to maneuver these Tyrian lice down in a little bit. Hopefully we can get a good shot off there. We've blunted that first assault, sort of. At least we've got it contained. I should be able to get their ammunition off there. Still got troops here. These guys are where they need to be. We're going to hold these guys in reserve because I may need to draw them back to my line because we are kind of suffering grievously at the hands of these whites. Oh no, more Witchers. Oh, Steward, you shifty bastard. Didn't see they managed to escape. Well, a lot of these troops here did eat that, but we are kind of... Oh shit, they broke. That's really bad. It's not over yet, though. Oh, those Witchers, I wish they'd just run out of ammo already. Just get in there. Get in there, Axe Guard. As long as they don't break, we should be okay. We should be able to hold on to this. Because, like, the undead units aren't quality by any means. They're really not that good. There's just a lot of them. And it can be overwhelming. Yeah, somebody's general just went down. We can redeploy these guys. Try and strengthen the line, at least over here. Yeah, I think we're going to need to recall our axemen. Try and stabilize the situation here.
lost half of our men.
Yeah, these axioms need to hurry. Get going, boys. Seem to be winning here. It's a hard one. I think we just need to spread out the numbers probably into about here. A triple line ought to be enough, and that's where we're gonna have to like live or die. Now the really slow moving units are multiple HP. They've got about 2 apiece, but aside from the barrel whites, they don't really do a lot of damage. They're just tanky and kind of try to outlast you. Green elves are doing okay though. Oh no. Yeah, I got some witches behind his line. Try and play those out to him.
Lost half their men.
That was avoidable. Unfortunately, Yoda didn't see it though. Okay, we do actually seem to be like stabilizing, so maybe we can redeploy these guys here. Throw them in there like so. So we got some braking. And these guys are doing well. They're cutting their way through the juggernauts. Gotta hand it to our elven units, but it's a tough one. Those artillery crews, though, they're standing up. Really doing what they need to do. The Randirim here. They've been engaged. I think they might be out of ammunition, though. Oh, there's just more. There's just so many. I don't think we're going to win this one, but that's okay. This is just for fun. This might be what we need to at least beat Steward's army. And then, because Eclipses, a lot of these guys are quite slow, it might buy us the time to like sort of defeat the rest of the army piecemeal, and then I can send some flanking forces to try and roll up their line while I send some of my more sturdier line infantry to help kind of bolster Yoda Guy's main green elf spear wall. Assuming nothing terrible happens to our general, that's like the big if, right? But I think we managed to at least blunt Steward's assault for now. It's really swept away our spear line though. That's some like kind of cool Game of Thrones-esque stuff. But there's no fast movers, and most of the stuff is like pretty stable now. So I think I can tab out and just take a look at chat. I keep pushing the bottom where troops line up. Yeah, I know. It's just that's a habit for like playing like competitive multiplayer games. I just like to know where things are. I was wondering what my plans concerning the campaign play and how long do you think it will take before the campaign gameplay will be realistic? And by realistic, I assume you mean like developed and not just like a sandbox. It's gonna take us a little while to get to that point. We have 2 new people working on campaign, and one of them is quite experienced, and I have had potential offers from help from other directions as well, which is really good. So campaign, it's not ready, and it probably won't be ready for quite a few months, but we do have more people working on it, which is something I didn't expect us to have. So it is going well. I would say it's going very well, in fact, given what I just told you, but it's going to take some time. Yeah, it's going to take some time yet, probably. I would guess at least 4 or so months at the very latest. And that's not a timeline that I intend to like hold anybody on my team to. That's just a guesstimate because you asked, and yeah, I want to actually answer your question, not be like, oh, well, you know, maybe this, maybe that. I think the sword host around here. See if we can't bring them into the back of the juggernauts. That might be helpful. See if we can put an end to this undead invasion. Things are looking desperate for the green elves over here, though. Hopefully we can get here quick enough and start to help them. Here, I'll risk it for the biscuit, and we'll zoom in and give you guys a good shot at that, just for some Halloween fun time. Resisting the urge to flash the troops. It really is a habit that I have. My Throne Total Line here doing very nicely for themselves. I think the green elves will actually be okay even without our help. But if you look, there's still more undead yet to come. But we should be able to defeat them sort of in detail. There's some breaking through there. That could be a problem. I'm going to send our Axe Guard over there and try and plug that gap. You lot. Get you in there. And some Risen Juggernauts charging into a Green Elf Spear Wall. Spear Host of Gelion. Understandably not very happy about that. They are losing that fight. It's a lot of HP for a spear unit to grind through. Should be able to make it through there, no problem. Send these guys forward. Might as well use up as much of their throwing axes as possible. How am I today? I am good, thank you, man. I appreciate that. You can still win, but the changes are not good. I think we can win this. I think we're well on track to winning this. The undead are starting to kind of run out of steam here a little bit. And there is this kind of breakthrough, which is a problem, and that's allowing those guys to get surrounded. But I have some like really quality axemen on their way over there, and the axemen in particular, the Doriath axemen, are very good at grinding up chaff. And that's basically what the entire undead army is. What we got here? Looks like these guys are now free. Get them out of here. Send them over this direction too. Might as well. Everyone but you. How are they doing? I'm gonna send everyone but the Tyrian Lysdanen over to here. I'm gonna bolster the Green Elf line. These guys are gonna move behind the Axeman position here. And they're gonna flank the Shamblers. I'm gonna finish them off that way. All my Axemen are in here. Should be okay. There's more to come. Skirmishers here. Let's mark that for our ally. Doing over on this side. Not quite finished yet, so I don't want to pull them out. But I will pull the high tier infantry at least, because they're fine. We're going to bring them over here to support the Tyrian Lysdanen.
For the moment, the fortune of battle goes our way. Let's pray it remains.
It's not over yet, though. Oh, there's so many undead yet to carve through, and there's still all of this as well. It's probably going to be a little bit clearer in their line of sight. So we're going to bide our time. Could throw them in, but that's my general in there. And I'm just trying to kind of play the long game a little bit. Oh, these guys are now free. Okay, let's bring them over to this side. And support our ally there. They're tired, so we're going to let them walk. You guys are on auto fire. You could do this if you wanted to. I'll see if Eclipse decides to go for my general. Oh no, the Witchers. Where are they? I can't even see them. They're right there. There's one of them. We can't allow him to become a problem. Take these guys. Actually, get my Axemen in there. should be enough to silence him. Yeah, he's gone. These guys are tired. I'm gonna give everybody the chance to just walk. Okay, now we're starting to push them back. He's got fresh troops over here. More shamblers. The shamblers are the damaging variant as well, by the way. They all sort of fill an archetype. You can think of the shamblers as being the sword and the juggernauts as the shield, and then the Oathbreakers are kind of just there to make up numbers, and the Witchers are like your special unit, basically. Okay, we're trying to move on our skirmishers, and we want them to be able to attack forever, so Tyrannized are going to move and intercept,
The enemy
and
are
then
badly
we're going
bloodied.
to
They have
pincer
lost
them
half
with
their
our
men.
high-tier axemen. You guys can move out of the way. It's not that hard for you. And then our reinforcements will get there eventually. They're starting to get surrounded and beaten down over here. The Mythern have maybe pushed a little bit too far forward. But they do have some support. And got some reserve units there, so Yoda should be okay. It's just a matter of us being able to finish off these troops here. Actually, I think those axemen would give us the opportunity to disengage the Tyrannized. For those of you unfamiliar, the Tyrannized are the Doriath legendary company, the Guards of Fallen Leaves. And the little bit of story behind them is that they were formed after the second fall of Doriath to the Sons of Feanor. And so they had armor-piercing axes made specially for dealing with the heavy armor of their enemies, such as the Sons of Feanor. Beautiful. I didn't think we were going to be able to do that for a while. Stewart really gave us what for. Like, if we look at this front line here, our spearmen just got swept aside. And then the axemen took the hits, and then it was just kind of maneuvering our heavy infantry reserves. But, like, our layered approach, I like to call it the onion build, if you will, was quite successful in weathering that storm. Largely because all they can do is walk at us and walk very slowly. But yeah, it was the right call, I think, to bring the build we did. If we look over here, it's a decent amount of kills, and then we had the crewmen who are still kicking and probably have hundreds of kills at this point. So yeah, well worth it. Okay, they're not winded, so let's get them up here. Prevent us around if we can on our poor green elf allies. That would be very bad for them. Gotta maintain the line, basically. So I'm gonna take all of you guys, plus you. And we're gonna go over here. The axemen and the Tyrannized are gonna come this way. Actually, we're gonna be able to cover a little bit more ground. I think you guys can come with them. I'll let you kind of receive the brunt of the charge. We're going to actually station you over here so there's more numbers surrounding our general, and he's less likely to die. And you guys can come this way too. I'm going to meet the advance of the undead. You guys can get in there. Just need to be quick about this, but not that quick. The undead are pretty slow.
General lies dead.
Oh, someone else's general died. Mass push there from our X-Men. These guys right up here in the middle of that scrap. You can come around this way too. it down there, right in the nitty-gritty. I've been avoiding it since, as I mentioned, my computer has had a tendency to crash recently, so I don't really want to push it, but now I feel a little bit safer. Ooh, those undead hordes have been stymied, but at what cost, I ask you?
Our foe is utterly
Oh,
vanquished.
okay, in mid-defeat there.
Let all who remember this day remember it as the day of our most glorious victory.
That was a ridiculous battle. That was a lot of fun, though. I really want to know what we did in terms of kills. Tyrion Lysdown did well. Axgard living up to their name as a chaff hunter. Sword units, everybody who's high tier and was able to like actually withstand that initial shock impact was did really well for themselves. The spear house unfortunately really bit the dust, but everyone else was kind of behind the shield of our spear guide, so that might actually be a fun little replay to just show for the hell of it, so we'll hold on to it. I've played a little before, so I have some strategy that I know. Who would win an all melee build, Assyrian build, or a ranged only Easterling build? Well, a ranged only Easterling build would probably lose that because our Easterlings currently just have mounted skirmishers and they can only bring about 5 or so of them before the prices get really ridiculous. So probably an Assyrian build, although I imagine if they had no range units whatsoever, the Easterlings would be able to exploit their mobility and the light armor of the Green Elves. It would be fun to watch, but I don't think it would be super competitive. Hi, Alisan. How are you, bud? When do I think the Dwarves of Artillerymen will be in the game if they're not already ready? The thing that's been holding the Dwarves back is that Koma from the Reforged team has allowed us to use his Artillerymen models, and I'm really excited to do that, but they have to be finished and they need to be released to Reforged first. I do have some Dwarven assets, and we do have a few of their like bodyguards and stuff that are done, and those were finished by Bill Baraka, but because we're waiting on Koma and he likes to take his time because he does really, really good work, it's going to take us a little bit longer to get the Dwarves out. So they'll probably be one of the last factions that I get to show you. That being said, if possible, and I make no promises, I would like to have like a small provisionary roster for the Dwarves available in our next patch. That won't be for a while, probably 4 to 5 months at the minimum. But I would like to see provisional roster for them in there so we can start doing like the Nir Naiath or Know the Ad and like some other really big battles of Beleriand. But as for like a completely finished and polished Dwarven faction, that's quite a long ways off. And it's mostly due to those kind of logistical issues, right? Like we want to use really high quality stuff, but it takes time to make that quality. So it'll be out when Koma is done with Artillerymen and the Reforged team that he's making it for is able to use those to how they want to. But we will be using those, and like conceptually the Dwarves are very, very done. It's just a matter of doing kind of the legwork here. I could do... Let me see what time it is. I'm actually going to probably call it there because my back has been friggin' killing me today. So I can't really sit in a chair for too much longer without like immense agony. So if you guys have any questions about Gondolin, who is definitely the next faction that you're going to see, or the Dwarves, or the Haladin, etc., etc., now would be a good time to ask. I'm an open book, and I will tell you if I don't know. But most of the things are kind of set in stone for the new confirmed factions, Gondolin, the Haladin, and the Nowgrim, or the Dwarves, if you like. So if you guys have questions about their playstyle, roster, mechanics, that kind of thing, if you're curious about what's coming in the test patch as well, I'm more than willing to talk about that. And I'll leave stream up for maybe another 10 or so minutes to answer questions and so forth. How much AP are the Dwarves going to get? They will definitely have Halberdiers, and they will also have some two-handed axemen, so they'll have a decent amount of AP. They're also going to have some unique artillery pieces, which are all armor piercing, or at least they have attack values high enough that it doesn't really matter anyway. So they'll have a decent amount of ability to deal with armor. The big thing with the dwarves is that they will be quite vulnerable to armor piercing, of course, and that's partly because of how their stats are being done. I'm shifting melee defense. Like, if they get a certain percentage of their melee defense score, that's going to go to shield and to armor. So those will be their two big stats. And things that can counter shield and armor will obviously be useful against them. Some of their units will also be a little bit smaller, so they're going to pay for smaller unit sizes on certain units with enhanced melee stats. And one of the other things that'll be important to them that also kind of answers this question is their artillery will be unique. All of their artillery crews will be a unique unit unto themselves, which is something that I'm experimenting more a little bit with as we move into this new patch. It's late here, so I'm out, dude. Hope you have a great day. Thank you so much, Calvin. Have a great one, man. What units do the dwarves have? They will have halberdiers, they will have pikemen, they will have some two-handed axemen, and they'll have a bunch of support units. But they're support units, and I'll give you a little bit of background on why this is, because it might seem like a strange change to people. Their support units are going to lean very heavily on our detachment system. One of the things that I've noticed when playing dwarves in other factions, or in other mods like Divide and Conquer, or in 30s Reforged, is that they're just kind of a wall of death that walks at you, and there's not a ton of micro that goes into it. So one of the things that I want to do to try and address that in a unique way, and basically to give you more clicks per second to do things with, is to split all of their supporting units into detachments. So you'll be able to bring the same number, more or less, probably a little bit lower, of, say, crossbows or throwing axes, but they will be broken up into detachments. So you'll have a detachment of, say, 60 or 80 or whatever it happens to be, and you'll be able to direct their fire into one area if that's what you want to, or you'll be able to direct two units to get that full force of a unit of throwing axes throwing into one area, that kind of thing. So it's going to increase the amount of choices that you get to make, so you'll be able to spread your fire a bit more. And it'll just give you more things to do with your back line once your front line, which is more of the traditional look on dwarves, is engaged. The other important thing is your artillerymen. The artillery will be unique. They will have unique functionalities that are available nowhere else in the Dwarven roster. They will have some special artillery pieces as well, which I think is kind of fun. And to go back to the detachment system I was talking about earlier, some of your shock units will also work that way. So you can launch flanking attacks with heavily armored Dwarven axemen without having to overcommit an entire unit. So you can spread your force out, and that's going to allow you to just do more things at once, or concentrate forces into an area kind of as you want to. I can't remember what I called it. It was tactical flexibility or something is the trait that I'm sort of using as a working name for it. The other thing that will be a little bit interesting about the dwarves is that they'll have some contextual mobility. So I'm taking that little joke with Gimli where we dwarves are natural sprinters. I'm going to take that and apply that to their infantry units and give them an increased charge distance. So when you come within a certain range of the dwarves, and this will be much higher than other units, they can just start sprinting at you, and they activate that sprint mechanic, and that gives them extra speed, essentially, from activating that animation. So you'll be able to have that contextual mobility and maybe even surprise people and get on top of them. But you won't be able to do it all the time when you're maneuvering, only in certain kind of key moments where you want to mount a charge against somebody who gets too close to you, things like that. So they're getting some mobility, but in a, I like to think, fairly unique and interesting way that involves choices on your part, because obviously if you charge the wrong thing or you charge at the wrong time, your units can get a little bit spread out, and then it disrupts your formation, which is where your big strength will come from. So there will, I hope, be some interesting choices there to play with the dwarves, some extra micro, increase the micro tax on you, so you'll be balancing your second line and your supporting detachments and figuring out where you want to shoot things. You've also got your artillery on top of that, which will be an important part of your army composition. So you're just kind of choosing targets and quickly scanning the battlefield, and I think it'll make the dwarves a little bit more interesting and engaging to play. Yeah. The dwarves that killed Morgoth's dragon, are they going to be a company of honor, or you mean a legendary company? I haven't decided on a legendary company for the dwarves. I can talk about the Gondolin one if you want, though. Let's see. What's the dwarven specialty? I think that kind of covers a lot of the dwarven specialties. They'll have lots of pole arms, which will be nice. It's very traditional in that sense. Are they going to have any sort of cav or fast-moving unit so that they have some mobility? I think I kind of just answered that question. They won't have any cavalry, but they will have that high charge distance so that they can get on top of you in the right kind of situations. But I think is a little bit more interesting than just giving them some cav. What is the specialty and disadvantage for Gondolin? You know, I'm really happy that you asked that, because I've been flogging Gondolin on stream a few times now, and I'm really excited to talk about them. So, Gondolin, when I first conceived of them, and this is maybe something that changes later down the line, but the initial iteration of Gondolin will have all of your houses split into specialists. So you will have a base roster of 3 houses, those being the houses of the tree, the swallow, and the harp, which will be your sort of standard mid-tier units. They'll cost the same. They'll perform more or less to code of other units of their type and tier. And then you move into your specialist units, such as the House of the Tree, the House of the Heavenly Arch, and things like that. And they're all going to have a unique flavor, and they will be sort of masters of their particular domain. So they will have a large army of specialists, some basic mid-tiers that they can call upon. But the specialist units will be high quality, but also more expensive than other units of their type, which I'm basically calling the specialist tax, if you want to refer to it that way. That way, Gondolin will have access to a plethora of tools that they can use to address a whole bunch of threats. But budget-wise, on a 14k budget, you won't be able to take every single thing to make you strong in every situation. So you kind of have to like pick and choose what you think is going to be needed for a given engagement, be it a team game or a 1v1 game. So for that reason, I think the Gondolin will also be pretty good at 1v1s, because when you can focus all of your attention on somebody, you can make a very specific plan. You can bring the necessary specialist units to kind of put that plan into action and make it work. So Gondolin will have lots of really good infantry, and they will cover a lot of different bases. They'll have macemen, they'll have dedicated bowmen, they'll have heavily armored infantry, they'll have 1 lancer unit, which I know some people are a bit iffy about, because it's actually written down that the only person who rode a horse in Gondolin was Salgant, and he was a wretched coward. But in order to make the rest of Gondolin congruent with that, with the like specialization, my brain is failing me right now, with the plan for balancing them and making them interesting, I had to have a cavalry unit, because I can't just have a whole bunch of infantry that do the same thing, because then you just don't, there's no choices there, right? You just bring those things because there's really no difference between them. So there will be some cavalry in the form of the golden flower will be lances. And then you'll also have a golden flower bodyguard that's pretty good at taking on single entity units and elephants and things like that. So yeah, that'll be the big challenge. You'll have lots of different weapon types that offer their utility, but you won't be able to bring them all because it's just too expensive for you to do so. But you won't be railroaded necessarily, because you'll have, of course, your mid-tier units to fall back on. The House of the Harp or medium swordsmen. The House of the Tree are a hybrid slinger unit, so we'll have slinger animations in the game, / macemen. The House of the Swallow will be archer spear hybrids, so you have a lot of options as Gondolin. Have you guys reread The Fall of Gondolin when deciding their playstyle and looking for information? Yes, and I actually recently reread it, and damn did I love The Fall of Gondolin. And that will inform certain things. So, the House of the Hammer of Wrath, for example, they charge out the gate and they die valiantly outside of the walls of the city. So I'm going to give them an increased charge bonus, and that's kind of part of it. And they'll be the most heavily armored because they were like the smithing house. They'll be the only Gondolin unit aside from the House of the King that has an armor upgrade, that sort of thing. What are some favorable matchups for upcoming factions? Ooh, that's a hard one. That's a hard one to say. Yeah, it's hard to guess, because every time I've guessed at something and I've theory crafted without like actually seeing them in game, our players and our testers will take them and they'll do something unexpected, which is a delight for me, really. like kind of see where people take things and what direction they go. But I couldn't really say with any authority. Aside from the Haladin, I think that the Haladin, because they're a light infantry faction largely, it could be a hard matchup if they went up against the Syrians, who are light infantry, very mobile, and rely on missile units. So I think that that could be a tough matchup for them, but I think there's also good matchups for them as well. I think based on what I've seen of the Haladin and the amount of like numbers, they also have some lock morale units. They've got some good mid-range projectiles. That could be a problem for certain Gondolin compositions, or Finarfin, for example. They could potentially do a number on because they're quick and they're high damage and that sort of thing. I would test out stuff with you guys if I wasn't banned. Well, you know what? We've had lots of chats over the last little while, and I will talk to the Secretariat and we'll see about getting you back in for the testing side of things, but that might take me a little bit. Finarfin Legendary Company Cav for campaign only. I mean, campaign is... I'm just going to derail the conversation here a little bit to talk about campaign, and then I'll answer your question there, Grimalkin. Campaign is going to be really interesting, and I'm really excited for campaign, because anybody who's watched my streams or has played Silmarillion will know that I have multiplayer rosters very small, very compact. I'm very focused on like what a faction does well, and you know that's what they have. They have the tools to do their job well, but they don't have everything. In campaign, you can fudge that a little bit, because campaign's more fun. It's a little bit sandboxy, and especially with some of the recruitment systems that we're going to try out, it will probably be necessary to have lots of mercenary units. So you'll have your base roster from multiplayer and from custom battle and whatever, but you'll be able to supplement that with interesting units that are area restricted from various parts of the map. And some of them will be available after you conquer settlements. Some of them will just be mercenaries who are kind of floating around that you can recruit on the go. Can we get a small little sneak peek at the campaign map? Maybe we could do that. I'll have to go and look for it, but next stream I will definitely put up something about the campaign map. But yeah, so just to finish my thought there on the campaign and the units that are in it, expect legendary companies, expect lots of flavor units like the Gaurwaith, for example, the band of, I think it was Baron's band or Turin's band of outlaws. Expect to see them make a appearance. Expect to see things like Prince Gwindor's regiment for Nargothrond to make an appearance, either in the House of Fingolfin or for Finarfin, or both. Expect lots of diversity on the campaign map, whereas multiplayer is a different sort of beast, right? And I want multiplayer to work in a certain way, but campaign will be really, really cool. Let's see here. Specialty and disadvantage, Regiment of Renown. We'll finish off my thoughts from earlier on Gondolin. So the Regiment of Renown for the Gondolin Rim will actually be a pike unit, and that's going to be pulled because David actually asked about this. That will be pulled straight out of the storybook. So in the Nirnaeth Arnodiad, in the Silmarillion, there is mention of a Phalanx of the King. So I'm doing Castellan of Angmar is going to do a model for a variant of the House of the King, and they will be a pike unit. They'll only be able to have one. It'll work sort of along the same lines as other regiments of renown, in that they're a unique sort of functionality to supplement your base roster, but they're not meant to replace anything. So, yep, they will have their pros and their cons, but that's an example of something that's drawn directly from the story that will be making its way into Silmarillion. To answer your question, Grimalkin, are we going to do a Battle of Gondolin when Gondolin is out? Absolutely, of course we are. I might not be posting it personally, but I have talked to Pixelated Apollo, and he did seem interested to do a showcase for the Gondolin faction when we get them out. So Taurion is a developer. He's been a developer for, I think, basically ever. But yeah, so Pixelated Apollo has expressed some interest in previewing the Gondolin faction. So if we do a Gondolin battle, you can bet your ass that we're going to do it with a custom map. And we're, of course, going to use the Gondolindrium, and it'll be like a big old scenario, like a 3v5 or a 3v4 or something like that. What else is interesting about the Gondolin room? I mean, I could go through the houses point by point, but I'm not gonna do that because my back's starting to hurt, and I kind of need to go and walk around and stretch for a little bit. But yeah, if you guys have any more questions here, I'll give you another 30 seconds or so, and you can quickly pose them, and then I'll answer them, and I'll take off for the day. In the meantime, let me see if I missed anything. They're gonna get... Oh, that's for the dwarves. Probably archers, elves, and some sort of cavalry. Yeah, that's not entirely wrong. Like, they will have archers and they will have some limited cavalry. Well, I think we've run out of questions for the day, which is no problem. We got a lot. Got to show off a lot of cool stuff today. Got to talk about Gondolin. I love talking about the upcoming factions. They're just way too much fun. The campaign map looks like Beleriand. You would win that bet for sure. I can't preview the campaign for you with like a picture right now because I'd have to like find it and I'd have to okay it with people. I can't just like show stuff like that off as much as I would like to. But I can tell you that the campaign map has about 190 or a little bit more regions, so it is quite expansive. What do I think is the biggest downside for some of the new factions? For the Haladin, I think that downside is that they're light infantry. They have really, 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 really good morale, but their numbers aren't amazing. So it'll be an interesting challenge to see where the Haladin ends up going, and maybe that will have to be, their design will have to be altered a little bit farther down the line. But yeah, that's definitely a downside for them. But hopefully we'll be able to offset that with offensive potential and like shock potential. Biggest downside for Gondolin, I think I already mentioned, is just that they're so specialized and they have like all of these tools, but you can only bring so many of them. So if you choose the wrong tools for the job, then it's entirely possible that you just get crushed. Things like that. So that's part of the challenge of playing them, is like getting your composition right and bringing the right units. And as for the dwarves, I think probably the biggest challenge for playing the dwarves, again, will be the lower numbers, because the dwarves are very warlike. It's mentioned in the books that they kind of fight each other, so I tried to work that into the faction design overall, but offset it with some increased combat stats. But I think that they can still be out-mobilitied. I don't think that the contextual mobility that they have completely eliminates their weakness. They will be a little bit... They won't necessarily be slower, but they will be all heavy infantry. So heavy infantry are slower than light infantry, and there's lots of light and medium infantry in the game. They don't have that cavalry to sort of have that power projection in the field. They have their artillery, and that's sort of how they do that in their own unique way. So the lack of mobility could be a big problem for them. Attrition might not go in their favor. Like they still want to get into close combat, but they want to really win in their own way with artillery and whittle you down with mid-range units and things like that. So I think that's probably the biggest downsides and the challenges to playing with the new factions, but they have lots of strengths as well, and hopefully that shines through. And if not, obviously we'll change it. We'll do what needs to be done so that every faction feels viable in campaign and multiplayer, and is also challenging and unique to play. But in any case, that's going to do for me. Hope you guys have enjoyed this so far. Expect some Halloween stuff probably tomorrow. I'm going to try and record the Halloween scenario that we did today a little bit later tonight, once I've had a chance to stretch and do all the normal people stuff. But yeah, keep your eyes peeled on the channel. There'll be lots to come. Hope you guys have enjoyed this so far, and I hope you join me next time.